What's up, YouTube? It's Mike back with another video. Today's video is, just like the title says, going to basically give you guys an idea of how I do water changes. I get the question a lot on Instagram especially, how do you do water changes on the big tank? Does that take forever? So I'll go over the big tank, how we deal with water changes for that. But first I'll show you guys just how I do water changes on the smaller tanks to try to make it quick. I don't have that many tanks compared to a lot of hobbyists. I only got 11, but it's still like 2,600 gallons or something like that. So when you're trying to turn all these tanks over, sometimes completely 100% once a week, then it adds up and it can get time consuming. So I've found ways over the years to make the process way easier on myself. So I'm gonna go over that in this video. So don't mind the mess, but first I wanna show you guys how I drain water. So first off, I drain all my tanks gravity. They all gravity feed to this floor drain, which is my sump for my house. So all my water goes into that. My sump pump itself has never kicked on that I'm actually aware of, although I do test it to make sure that it still works. But the water drains through this very well, so I have not had a problem or any issues so far doing it this way. So this black and gray hose is my drain line for the tanks. And I will quickly show you guys how I drain the 240, about 50%. So for the 240, I can use what I've made for a drain line here out of PVC and some 1-inch hose. Originally, when I started doing this, I was using just this black pond hose. You can get that at Lowe's and Home Depot for pretty cheap. I don't recommend really using it. I've ran into a lot of problems where I've split this type of hosing, barely touching it. So it splits very easy, but I do use it because it's cheap. But what I've done to make it a little bit more durable for myself anyway, is I used this gray hose, which is a lot stronger. I made a nice drain valve for myself. So I have a shutoff here, and I have another ball valve, another shutoff here, which conveniently connects the two hoses, so I have a nice long line. But what I do is, I only had to get the siphon going once this way. Don't want to have to suck on the end of a hose every time I want to drain water. As you guys know, it's disgusting. Plus, as you see, the end of the hose is in that hole. I do not want to stick my mouth on the end of that hose. So what I did was, I always keep water trapped in here. So all I need to do to start a siphon is open the top one, and the top one's only necessary so I don't have any backflush. And open this one, which is hard to do while holding the camera. Very hard to do while holding the camera. And the siphon automatically starts. Now I like to use the big 1-inch hose because it drains so much quicker than, say, a 5/8. So again, I only added this one because it prevents me from, if I ever put this hose down or whatever, it won't drain out the whole hose. That was the idea behind that. And I actually already had this piece put together from a past project, so I just threw it all together that way because it was easy and I already had most of it done. And then I had a strainer. I got that strainer for free with a tank once, and it fits right in the end. I think it's actually a 3/4 inch strainer, not a 1-inch, but the rest of the line is 1-inch. I don't think it restricts though. So while that drains, I'll show you what I fill with. So this is just a regular 5/8 vinyl hose that comes with your standard water changer or whatever. And I took an old canister return end and put that on it just to make it easier to hook onto tanks. And then I got a bunch of these little battery powered thermometers, and I just mounted one to the end so I can kind of judge pretty accurately what the temperature of the water is that I'm putting into the tank, so I don't drastically change it by accident, which in the winter you need a lot more heat because the water comes out a lot colder, and in the summer you need a lot less. So it's helped me a lot. It's tough to get that temp right. So I just hook this right onto here, and that's it. And then I just check on it every once in a while, make sure that the temperature is coming out the way I want it. The other thing I wanted to address quickly is you can do this with a pump instead. I know a lot of people will put a pump in the tank and they say, you know, I'm gonna drain it a lot quicker with a pump, but I've found personally that is a huge pain, because not only am I carrying a pump around and a hose, but I'm carrying an extension cord and whatnot around with me too to give the pump power. So also, you gotta worry, if you have substrate in the tanks, you gotta worry about sucking up substrate. It becomes a real pain. I find gravity, if you can siphon gravity quickly, it's a lot less hassle, a lot less carrying things around. I find this easier than a pump. Is it possible I could drain quicker if I pumped? Yeah, maybe, but I'd have to carry around a pretty big pump to even compare. So it would help a little bit in this situation, but not much. So I choose gravity, works good for me. It's easier than running an extension cord. Alright guys, so that's about 50% there in 12 minutes. I can actually do it quicker too with a different hose, but so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna turn those two valves off. Turn this one off first. Turn this one off just to avoid dripping. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now there's still a bunch of water trapped in that gray section of the hose. So anytime I want to do my next water change, I can throw it on a tank and just open the two valves and it'll automatically start draining, siphoning. That's pretty much what I do with all of these tanks. And I actually put the hose into that plastic container that I have the mop in, and I carry that upstairs to do the few tanks that I have up there. So the 240, the 210, the 220, and these racks, and the 180, those all get done exactly like this. And I'll show you how I refill. So I have a slop sink in the basement. I actually put it in myself. Didn't do a great job at that. Don't copy what I did, but I put this sink in just for this. Technically, I can drain to this also, but it won't drain as quickly because it's higher up. The elevation is higher, so don't mind all this stuff in the sink. This is just your regular standard water change connection for your sink. So that's all that is. I'm just gonna turn that on. And then I know because it's cold out right now that I'm gonna need to have my heat all the way up for this. And I start with the cold all the way up too, and usually I just lower it slowly until I get the desired temperature. Now we're up to 77, which is basically where I want to be. I don't mind if it's slightly colder than the tank. The tank is at 78 to 79. So I'm going to back off on the hot water this time. Just slightly. And that's it, guys. Now, I should mention too, if I want to drain or spot clean a tank, I rigged up this, which is also very ghetto, but it's a regular 5/8 hose attached to a, this was actually an Arrow, and a nice long hose with a shutoff also. So water always sits in this. So all I have to do is put this end in the tank. I can put the other end of the hose in the sump, and then I can open that valve there and I can drain gravity the same way. But I can spot clean with the end of that. So I can kind of stick that down into the corners of the tank and whatnot and get at more detritus. So while that fills, I figure we can go over the 1100 gallon, which is actually closer to 1600 gallons when you include the 300 that I've got plumbed into it as well. So this whole system is on a drip system, an automatic water change system basically. So I'll explain how that goes. Basically, I am constantly running fresh water from the house into the system at a slow rate. And then in the tank, I have a drain at the water level that is draining tank water all the way out. So my drain is right here. It's a 1-inch, and it sits right behind my plumbing there. You barely even see it really, but it's right at the water level. So that's constantly overflowing water out of the tank, and it's coming down this gray hose behind the tanks, and it goes all the way to my sump drain. So that gray hose there is coming from, that gray hose right there is coming from the 1100. Constantly has water flowing from that. So I am on city water, so you're probably thinking, okay, how are you jumping water directly into it? Don't you need to dechlorinate that or whatnot? I installed a whole house water filtration system to remove as much chlorine and chloramines as possible before it gets to us, basically. So the water comes in from the city up this way, and what I did was I did a bypass to come through a sediment and then through a big carbon block. The carbon block is what removes chlorine and chloramines. Not 100% of them, but something like 97 to 99% of them. Then you come up and back into the main line, and then it goes up throughout the house. So I teed in off of one of the main cold water lines right here, and I added an extra ball valve in case I want to go this way to put these tanks on auto water change, which I might do eventually. But so I teed in right here, water comes through this line, takes a turn, comes down and drops right into the sump. And I have a pressure regulator on the end of that, and then a drip emitter. So I'm slowly dripping cold water into the heating chamber, basically, of the sump to help keep that cold water from disturbing the temperature of the system too much. But if I drip too much water in, I do have a hard time heating the tank, so I have to find that happy medium. So in doing it this way, I've managed to keep the nitrate level at 10 consistently. So that's, again, both of these tanks around 1,600 gallons. I do not know how much water I am dripping in. I don't have a dialed in drip emitter like that, but so I'm just eyeballing it. And basically how I did that was I slowly increased how much water I was dripping into the system as I saw fit. So whatever kept the nitrate level at 10 is where I stopped. And it's been real consistent like this for months without any issues. So I have done one water change on it when I got the bloom. And maybe if you saw our previous videos, you'd know about that. But other than that, it's been running almost 6 months, and I've only done the one water change. And the nitrate stays at 10, and 10 is fine for me. Some people want it 0, some people want it 5, but I'm plenty happy with 10. So this has not shown any real increase in my water bill or my sewer bill, which are combined. So I don't know, maybe the meter doesn't quite work that way in our city, but I haven't had any issues with expensive water bills or anything like that. So yep, that's pretty much it for the big system, guys. It's just a drip system. Water drips in from the top here into the sump. That's fresh, clean water, and tank water is constantly overflowing and dripping out into the drain. Eventually, it completely turns itself over. And it works great. I don't have to do big water changes on this. If I do want to do a manual water change, I can grab that same drain hose and drop it into the tank here, and I can drain that way, which I have done. Or if I want to drain water even quicker, I can disconnect that hose and plug a hose right into this valve here. And then I can drain the tank extremely quick. So with that, I've drained the tank in like an hour, really fast. So, yep, that's pretty much it for how I do water changes, guys. And if you have any comments or suggestions, I'm always open to them. This is something that's worked for me so far. It's a quick way. Total hours I spend in maintenance is maybe 3. I like to be down here a lot more than that, but when it really comes to how many hours I spend doing maintenance, it's really only about 3. I've added it up. So this tank was around 12 minutes to drain, which I can do it quicker than that with a different hose, but anyway, that's how I'm doing it right now. It's about 12 minutes to drain it, and then it's more like 25, almost 30 minutes to refill it, something like that. But it's really doesn't even take an hour. I would say it takes 40 minutes tops, something like that. 40 minutes to do a 50% water change on this. And to be honest, I don't often do 50%. Sometimes I'll just do a 30. So then it's really quick. But yeah, that's about it. That's how I do all these tanks. Thank you guys again for watching, as always, and I will let the big 1100 gallon sign us off.